A little girl was held down by the powerful bonds of death. Jesus came to her, took her by the hand, and in his own language of Aramaic said, Talitha, little girl, get up. To the amazement of all those around, the little girl did get up, rising from the bonds of death to life. Talitha, girl, get up. This was not the last time in history the Christ was to say those words to someone. In the 12th century lived a little girl in Germany by the name of Hildegard. At the age of 18, she prayed to God, asking what she should do with her life. The Christ came to Hildegard, took her by the hand and said, Talitha, girl, get up. I'm calling you to something. So she entered the convent and became a great prioress, then abbess, the head of all the sisters of her convent. These were the days when women were not supposed to be educated, when they weren't supposed to write. She had an amazing intellect, though, and there was much she wanted to write about. Books about spirituality, books about God, books about science. But she wasn't supposed to. The Christ came to her, took her by the hand and said, Talitha, get up, girl, arise and write. So Hildegard of Bingen wrote profound works of theology and spirituality, still popular today. She lived in the days when it was unheard of for a woman to write music. But she was a great musician, and the Christ came to her and said, Talitha, get up, girl, compose for me. So Hildegard became the first composer in history whose name we know. She wrote some of the most beautiful melodies in our treasury. Talitha, girl, get up. Hildegard looked at the world and the church and saw so many abuses. A woman did not dare correct the hierarchy. But Christ came and took her by the hand. Talitha, get up, girl, go on, girl. And she became a prolific writer of letters to emperors, to bishops, to popes, to the nobility, to the common people, criticizing all that needed to be reformed. Canon law forbade women from preaching, but God had given her the skills of a brilliant orator. The Christ came and said, Talitha, get up, girl. And she defied church law, following a higher authority, and went out on 4 different preaching journeys all through the land. She needed to move her convent of sisters to another location, so she asked the permission of the abbot in charge. He refused to let her go because he knew he would not have power over them if they moved to another place. It's always about power. So she prayed, and Christ came to her saying, Talitha, get up, girl. And so Hildegard once again followed a higher authority, and at great hardship took her sisters where they needed to go. When she was 80 years old, a young man died. He had been excommunicated, and according to the laws of the church, was not allowed to be buried in consecrated ground. So the family brought the body of this poor young man to Hildegard, and she allowed him to be buried on the convent grounds. At night she dressed up in all her regalia of an abbess, carrying her pastoral staff, and she herself blessed the young man's grave. When the church authorities heard about this, they were furious and demanded that Hildegard dig up the body and throw it out. She refused, and so the authorities headed to her convent to dig up the body themselves. Hildegard prayed. Christ came and said, Talitha, Get up, girl." In a stroke of genius, that night she removed all the grave markers and headstones from the cemetery, so that when the authorities arrived, they had no idea where the grave was that they were supposed to dig up. They were so furious that they put her entire convent under interdict, forbade the celebration of Mass and the sacraments, forbade the nuns to sing the praises of God. Not surprisingly, Hildegard stood up to them then as well, and many a bishop since that time has discovered what a formidable foe an 80-year-old nun can be. 6 months later, in 1179, Christ came to Hildegard for the last time, took her by the hand, and said, "Talitha cum," rise up, girl. Come into the new life I have prepared for you. In 2012, Pope Benedict XVI, a fervent follower of Hildegard of Bingen, confirmed her status as a saint, and later that same year proclaimed her Doctor of the Church in recognition of her holiness of life and the originality of her teaching. She is only the 35th person in all of church history to receive this title. All of us are the daughters and sons of God. To each of us the Christ comes and takes us by the hand to say, "Talitha cum," rise up from the tombs of fear and complacency holding you down. Break the chains of oppression, the shackles of conformity. Talitha cum, rise up, my daughter, rise up, my son. Burst through the bonds that have kept you down, yes, even the fetters of space and time and death itself. Rise up to the unbounded freedom of the children of God.